How's it going, everyone? I have just reached Masterball the other day, and I just want to talk about the best decks that I see running into Masterball at all times, and the decks that I used to get there. I have some things to say about the meta that I think are pretty important for anyone trying to get to Masterball to hear, so we're going to go over that as well. Around 60% of you have still yet to subscribe but watch the videos almost regularly, so if that sounds like you, consider hitting the subscribe button. Everyone else, you're my best friends. I love you. So this deck right here is just going to be an honorable mention because I do not think it is that great. Its matchups across the board are sort of tough. It's kind of here because this is the best deck to play if you're really pressed for time in ranked and just kind of want to relax, get games over quickly. This deck has the potential to knock out your opponent's Pokemon on turn one, winning you the game. Fanpete plus a Giovanni will knock out EVs. There's a lot of EVs going around right now, so you can take advantage of that on your first turn of the game. Get through the EV. You could also go Tyrogue plus a Lucario if you went first and get through a EV, or just two-shot the EV. You don't even need to. You wouldn't even need a Lucario in that case. It's just here to be really aggressive and kind of prey on the fighting weak basic Pokemon. A lot of the other matchups it struggles with. Giratina Darkrai is kind of hard if you don't just immediately start a Donphan and get to start attacking quickly. Some of the bigger basic decks will give you some grief if they are able to one-shot a Donphan. Leafeon Flareon, if they're able to set up and you are not, you're not attacking quickly, you'll end up losing too. So it has some tough things about it, but it's the only deck here that has the option of winning the game before your opponent has really even gotten to do anything, which I think is really cool. Also, scoring a free point off of an EV in the active spot before they evolve, and then you just need to find a knockout on one of their stage twos when they, one of their 2-pointers when they evolve into a Flareon or a Leafeon, whatever. It's very cool. I like the deck. I very often play it when I'm just not really feeling like thinking all that much and just want to use Donphan, because I think Donphan is a really sick EX. I'll also show you this other version of Donphan while I'm talking about it, because I swap between the two. This one has some other strengths. It will not get those first turn knockouts like you would like it to, but it's going to start Donphan every time, or at least start Fanpy, and then you can find the Donphan. You're not going to be able to buff Donphan's power, which is a little bit sad, but the Rampardos is a really great final attacker. After a Donphan gets knocked out, you can go into the Rampardos, and there you go, you're doing 130 damage. Very strong card, as we all know. Donphan is a lot of fun. Again, not really the best of decks. That's why I'm just leaving him here as an honorable mention. Now to talk about the 5 decks that I would be playing. These are in no particular order, and some things before we get into this that I think are very important. I also mentioned Giratina Darkrai would be on this list. I just don't really care to talk about it. It's not very interesting, and the deck is still just Darkrai, Giratina, and then whatever trainer cards you want to throw in. So there's not much more to it. It's Giratina Darkrai. I think, and you'll see as we go on this list, the game is at a point where everything is so consistent that I think you put yourself at a really big disadvantage if you play a stage 2. You have full basic decks, which you will see more of besides just this one, that are insanely powerful, work off the board, don't really need trainer cards in order to boost their strength. They help out, but like, you can, I have won so many games with this deck without playing a single research. Just the power is there in the Pokemon. I don't really need much else besides the research and, knowing what to stick in the active spot, what to attack with at what time. And then we have, on the other hand, the stage 1 decks, and pretty much all of the stage 1 decks that are really good are all EV based. EV has its own built-in consistency with either collect or find your friend. Then you get to evolve into Sylveon, which is you're basically playing 3 or 4 researches in those decks. All of those decks are so much more consistent than any stage 2 ever will be. It's crazy. Because getting to Masterball is going to require you to play so many games, I'm really not playing any stage 2s right now. I'm playing either basic decks or stage 1 decks revolving around the EV line in some way. That's kind of how I feel about the meta right now. We can also look, if you look at tournaments and everything, and those are even best of 3, where you get a chance. If you brick one of those games, you will have 2 more games to try to win and just set up properly. They're still not even doing as well as you would want them to. Like, Crobat is doing okay, but I personally, I just think it's whatever. Charizard is still around, but it's not doing as good as it once was. We have like these really big basics now. Like, look at this Snorlax, 160 HP. Charizard's gonna need a supporter in order to one-shot it, and if you put a giant cape on it, there's nothing they can do in one turn to get that knockout on the Snorlax. So that's sort of my thoughts on the meta, but let's get into talking about this deck, because this deck is so much fun. I love this deck. It's a great time. So I much prefer this to the Lugia version, and there are a few reasons why. Number 1, Snorlax can actually attack 2 times in a row. Number 2, Snorlax is a fantastic. So if you think when you're playing Lugia, you really just want to start like a Magby or a Pichu or something that is not a Ho-Oh or a Lugia. Snorlax is going to be able to soak up damage a lot better because of its ability that heals 20. We also play the Ilima in here and the Lyra. So when Snorlax is in the active spot, we will be able to move, pretty consistently get it out of the active spot, just waste all of the time that our opponent put into damaging the Snorlax, make it so they are then not able to get that free 2 points. Because with these decks, you really don't want to be building up a Ho-Oh in the active spot. It's really nice to be able to put a Ho-Oh forward after you've gotten the necessary energy on it, and then Phoenix Burn, and then go into some other attacker. We also have the Giratina in this list, which is great if you do not start Magby, because then you are able to not only build up Ho-Oh, but also build up another 130 damage output attacker. This deck is just super sick. Oh, the Kamala is here for the Oricorio matchups. Very necessary. There's a lot of Oricorio going around, so I like having him here. He's a fantastic counter to Kamala, and we're already playing, it's versatile enough. We're not really looking for anything on our first turn besides a Ho-Oh. Even if you don't find the Ho-Oh, again, you have other options. You can build up a Snorlax on the bench manually. You can build up the Giratina with its ability. The deck just works. I feel like Kamala has a good spot. It is a good addition to this deck. Now, I've seen some people running this with double giant cape, no red. There are sort of 2 cards I could see switching here. I could see maybe take out the Pokemon Center Lady for the second cape. I like the red because since we're not playing Lugia, we're not swinging for 180. Our damage caps out at 130. And to be able to play red and just get ourselves to that 150 when there are so many Pokemon with, sub 150 HP, or sorry, 140 HP, right? Or 150 if it's a Flareon from the Flareon Leafeon deck. I just think it smooths over those matchups a lot better. It feels really bad to use 130, to use Snorlax, hit for 130 on like a Leafeon or a Flareon at some point during the game, or an Espeon or a Sylveon, and just not get that one shot on them when you could have if you were just playing red into the deck. So I like red to go for those big swing turns. I like knowing that I can boost my damage and get myself, put myself into a much better situation if need be. So again, this deck is really fantastic. You can use Snorlax as a wall up front while you power up Ho-Oh, and then just Ilima or Lyra. You can even go Lyra into the Ho-Oh. If your opponent doesn't have Cyrus, within a certain amount of time, and just kind of leaves the Snorlax there for the end of the game, you still have the Ilima in order to pick it up and get rid of that threat on the board. Very cool deck. Very fun. Very consistent. It's just basics. You just need to put together a Ho-Oh and a Snorlax, and you're kind of chilling. It's, again, very fun deck. I feel like I've talked way too long on this deck, but I'm just a huge fan. So now we've got Flareon Leafeon, and it is basically unchanged from last format, which is nice if you don't have the new cards yet and you were able to pull double Flareon, double EX, and a Sylveon. You would have had to put a lot into EV Grove. The only change we're looking at here is, and this is even a toss-up, you can either go with the Collect EV or the Find a Friend EV. I prefer the Find a Friend EV just so I know, like, I'm getting a Pokemon. I prefer that to the Collect. Usually what you're looking for if you're attacking with Eevee is your evolution pieces. So I would rather have that sort of guarantee that I'm going to get at least someone useful, right? Hopefully I'll either get a Leafeon or a Sylveon, or if I already have my evolution pieces in hand, it can get me another basic Eevee, get that ready to evolve down the line. Yeah, I like to find a friend. But once again, this deck is basically unchanged. It is still very, very fun. It was my favorite deck from last format. I enjoy it a lot. It's just super consistent. Built-in consistency from Eevee and the Sylveon package. And energy acceleration everywhere from the Leafeon and the Flareon. Just a ton of fun. Not much more to say about it. You guys know what the deck does, and it is still very, very strong heading into this meta. So we're seeing a big return of Buzzwole EX, actually. It is doing really, really well, and I think that's due to not as much Charizard being around. Charizard, horrible matchup for this deck, and you're just not seeing a ton of Charizard at the moment. So Buzzwole is having a great time in this meta, and we're seeing a big focus on just the Pheromosa Buzzwole version. You could put a Kartana in here as well if you're worried about Oricorio stuff. It'll just smooth things over a little bit more for you. Kartana will be able to two-shot an Oricorio as opposed to Pheromosa, which is just doing 20, 20, 20. Gets a little bit tricky. Like, that matchup has never been really all that easy for Buzzwole. Every time I've played it on either side, me and my opponent are scrambling and scratching our heads the whole time, figuring out how we could piece together the win over each other. Buzzwole didn't really get a whole lot of new tools. I think it just gained better positioning in the meta. As you can see here, this is a list that has done very, very well. And if you look at other lists, it's all pretty much the same. The only real thing you might want to toss into the deck is a silver, if you can find the space for it. Maybe go for the silver red card combo that a lot of decks are trying to find the space for, because it is fairly powerful if you have that on your first or second turn after your opponent's used the research. It's pretty darn good. Yeah, I mean, it's Buzzwole. He is still doing as good as ever. All the strengths of Buzzwole are still there, just gained some better matchups, and its worst couple matchups have sort of fallen off. You don't see Solgaleo anymore, which could give it some problems, and you don't really see a ton of Charizard. So yeah, Buzzwole, very good deck. This is hopefully something you have all the pieces for already and already know the deck pretty well, and you also get the bonus of playing, even though it's Buzzwole, and I know a lot of people don't care about Buzzwole as a Pokemon, like the best immersive art in the game, I think. I don't think anything looks as good as Buzzwole. And when you have all these full art, Ultra Beast as well, this is the most beautiful board I've ever had. When I have all of my Ultra Beast out there with these immersives and these full arts, it's my favorite looking deck of all time, I think. So yeah, Buzzwole, great pick. Give it a try again, and you'll see that it is, you're still able to use this 2-set old deck and do just fine in the meta. It's actually performing very well. If I had to rank these, I would say Buzzwole Pheromosa is probably in the top 3 decks right now. We have yet another old deck here that gained some new tricks from the set. This is one of the ones that actually did gain some buffs. This deck is crazy. I forgot to mention when I was talking about the meta, like stage 1 decks that just have built-in consistency. Type Null Silvally has built-in consistency with Gladion as that supporter, being able to go find the pieces. And it has gained Pichu / Magby, you know, whichever of the two you like to run. I've seen lists playing 1 Magby, 1 Pichu. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you're playing Lightning Energy, it's going to do whatever, but I put 2 Pichu in here because I like Pichu more than Magby. Magby's kind of like an ugly guy, I'll be honest. So now we don't have to play Zeraora. So the function of Zeraora was, the real function of Zeraora in those decks was, it was essentially another type null start. If you started Zeraora, you got the energy attachment immediately, and then you could pivot into Silvally and still attack on your second turn if you went second. You didn't have to waste the attachment to the active position in order to do so. Now, we just have the Pichus, which are free retreat, so it still functions the same, and if you go first, can make so your Silvally is attacking on the second turn of the game. It's ridiculous. These baby Pokemon have really buffed Silvally or Oricorio. It's now more consistent than ever because of it. Like, dude, taking away the classic Silvally promise of, oh, I went first, I'm not attacking for another 2 turns, dude. My opponent's going to be set up before I'm doing 100 damage. Like, the fact that you could just start Pichu and completely mitigate that, and now you're going first and still being able to hit on your second turn for 100 damage, it's crazy. The only other change we have here is throwing in a Silver to the list. Silver's just, I mean, you need to play all of these supporters. Silver is very, very powerful, especially, I mean, it's powerful early game, it's powerful late game. In the middle of the game, it sort of falters, I think. You're not going to get a whole ton of value. You either want Silver in order to get a research out of your opponent's hand, or near the end of the game, if you know your opponent's looking for a Sabrina or a Cyrus or a whatever in order to win the game. It's nice to be able to take those out of their hand and hopefully prevent them from having that game-winning card on that turn. So Silvally Oricorio just got a big consistency buff this set with the Pichu, and it is really, really scary. We don't even see Silvally Rampardos anymore. This is now the premier version of it for sure. So if you're looking to run some more Silvally and Oricorio is just still great. It blocks not as many decks as it used to. You know, it's Oricorio doesn't really give you an auto win over anything anymore besides like Charizard EX still. But it is just an annoying card that decks have to play around and causes a lot of headaches for them. So it's still the best partner for Silvally. Very, very good deck. And now the last deck I want to talk about is one of my favorites. So this is Espeon Sylveon. It's really funny when these two were leaked. It was like, oh, Umbreon's ability is broken. Espeon, you know, whatever. But actually healing 30 and dealing 80 is kind of just enough. This deck is very, very, very fun. It's really just dealing 80 consistently every turn, or 70 with the Sylveon, whatever, having the choice between those two attackers is just really hard to deal with. If you think about it, like, that's kind of what people want to do with Crobat. And the difference here is that we're a stage 1, and yeah, we don't have 170 HP, so our opponent can reach for that one shot on us a little bit better, but we have the healing ability, so we can take away some of the 2 shots our opponent tries to go through from that heal 30, plus with the EV bag, maybe go up to a heal 50 for the turn if need be, or pivot between 2 Espeon EXs, and then you're healing 60 damage every single turn. Some other inclusions that I like here, he has put in the Espeon, and I do like the baby Espeon because it's got a good amount of HP, enough to potentially live in some circumstances. But if you go first, you are now behind 1 energy attachment. There's no energy acceleration in this deck. If you go first, you're a little bit behind. There are times where you get put into a really bad spot where you can attack with your active Pokemon, but if it gets knocked out, you're just going to have no follow-up. So having an option for a 1 energy attacker, I think, is really, really good for the deck, because of how bad turn 1 can be for it, getting behind on those energy attachments. It's insanely consistent. We have consistency EVs, Sylveons, and actually our Sylveons are like attackers that we use all the time. So this deck just gets up and going. It does what it wants to basically every single game. Sure, it'll brick every now and then, but every single game, or every single deck in this game does. Then we have the Sylveon 2 as our only card that can really, have some sort of big reach. It does, I believe, 40. I can't remember what the baseline for it. It's either 30 or 40. I know that if you have a full bench, you're going to be hitting for 130. And if you have 2 evolved Pokemon, you're going to hit for 100. So I think it's 40 plus 30. I can't, it's too small right now. Yeah, this card is going to let you just reach a little bit farther than your Espeons and Sylveons, depending on how many evolution Pokemon you have in play. Also good in those circumstances where you need to hit for those numbers. What else to talk about with this list? It's pretty basic. Pretty basic. Has the red card silver combination as well. I think if there was any card I would want in here, but hasn't totally been necessary, you could go to a second EV bag for sure. But I really think double Cyrus, if anything. because this deck is, as you can see, it's not really taking any one-shots on anything. I've played against this deck, and I've played games against this deck where we are playing a game of attacking and pivoting into something to buy us some time and just not really taking knockouts against each other. It just sort of becomes a war of you know, we're just playing as defensive as possible, lengthening the game while we wait for our outs to come, and a double Cyrus could really help that. Because again, you're gonna have something with damage on it and you're not doing a whole ton of damage, so against certain matchups your opponent's able to just constantly pivot and deny those last points you need to win the game. But this deck is so much fun. I really love that Espeon is good, because Espeon is one of my favorite evolutions. The healing 30 is a really cool ability. Ended up being a lot more impactful than I thought it would be. It's a lot of healing, man. It's a lot of healing to do every single turn. About the only thing I wish this deck had was something to swing for a lot of damage outside of the Sylveon 130 if you have all of your EVs on the bench and evolved. But that's kind of the only thing that it's missing. I don't really think you need a red or anything in this deck, because you are really just focused on two-shotting, and the red doesn't fix up enough relevant damage numbers for you. In the mirror match, it could help for sure, because you're going to hit the Espeon for 80. They'll go down to 60, and then they will heal 30, and now the only way to knock it out is with your one of EV bags. So that's really the only spot where a red could be all that relevant, is for the mirror match if you're attacking into Espeons with Espeons. But other than that, it doesn't come up too often. So that's the end of the video. Hopefully you guys go give these decks a whirl. Hopefully you're happy to see that some of the old decks are still great. There really wasn't a ton new to come out of this set, which I kind of figured when I saw the EXs. None of the EXs really blew me away all that much. I didn't think we'd be getting too much more, but the spot where the metagame is in right now, it's a lot of fun. There are so many different archetypes to try that all play very uniquely from each other that it's just a ton of fun, man. I have a hard time choosing what deck I'm going to play for the day, because I want to play them all. Yeah, I'm having a ton of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe on your way out if you did not. I'll see you on the next one.